I'm Sarah Jones. Many years ago, I read history here at the University of Oxford. For the past 19 years, I've been the undergraduate admissions officer here at St John's College. In this presentation, I'm going to give you a very brief guide to the admissions tests that we use here at the university. So I will be going over how to find out about test requirements, how to get registered, how to prepare, and more importantly, what to do if you hit problems. I'm often asked, why do we need tests? Isn't the UCAS information enough? Well, yes, the UCAS information is very important, but nowadays we do need a bit more help when it comes to making these very important decisions. For example, let me give you a little bit of history. In 2004, St John's College had 460 applications, while the university had 12,500. Last October 2020, St John's received 1,285 applications and the university 24,500. So you will see now that we have many, many more applications to assess. Also, grade standards have increased. And we are now receiving many more applications from overseas. So how can we make a fair comparison between things like SATs, Indian High School Certificate, Singaporean SIPCAL, German Abitur, French BAC, the list goes on. We are an elite university with a worldwide reputation, so how can we make sure we are getting the best of the best? These tests therefore give us A, a common data set across a very diverse group of candidates, B, a means of being able to push the applicants just that little bit further than their schoolwork. And finally, very importantly for our tutors, they provide a very useful tool in the shortlisting process. Back in the olden days, for example, when I was applying, everyone was interviewed. You put in your form, you turned up. Sadly, this is no longer possible. So another important question is, how important is the test? Well, it is important to stress that at Oxford, we look at all aspects of an application and that no one element will trump the other. But a good test score will put you in a strong position when it comes to shortlisting. So remember this, the better your score, the harder you are to ignore. So, which test? You may well ask. Here we have a bewildering array. So what you need to do is find out whether or not your particular subject requires a test. So how do I find this out? Well, what I always like to do is look at the course listing links. These are very, very useful sources of information, and I refer to them many, many times during my work as an admissions officer to help people with a whole range of inquiries. So the complete A to Z of courses, all listed here alphabetically. So, for example, I'm an ex-historian, so let's click on history and take a look at what history requires. Here we have the site for history. It's common to all subjects. You will see a pretty picture at the top, the name of the subject, and this is the important meaty stuff really here. You've got overview, structure, admissions requirements. What we're going to look at is admissions requirements. So we click here, and this will tell you what the academic requirements are, some subject recommendations, a link to how to apply, which is always important regardless of which subject. But what we're interested in is the admissions test. And you will see, yes, history has a test. The HAT, let's click on that link. And here we'll have a page giving information about the test and what you need to do, how to take the test, how to register, and how to prepare. This is pretty much the same for any subject, and I always recommend getting to know these subject information pages, as they will be very, very helpful if you decide to make an application with us. So we had a look at the subject pages. There's also the admissions test guide, which I recommend you have a look at, and that also gives you some very useful information. So you found out now that your subject requires a test. Nearly all subjects do ask for a test. There are a few still left that don't. But what I would say is if you are interested in one of these subjects, please bear in mind that there are moves afoot to get tests introduced. So be aware and watch this space. So your subject needs a test. So what do I do now? Okay. It is very, very important that you get registered. I can't stress this enough. Please note that registration is not automatic. It doesn't magically follow that when you put in a UCAS form, you will automatically be registered. This is not the case. What you need to do is you need to get your school to register you. This is very important and it is your responsibility. Please note that the deadlines are very strict and allowances for late registration are only given in truly exceptional circumstances. And I mean truly exceptional, things like world disaster, asteroid impact, that kind of thing. It's very, very unusual for you to be allowed to make a late registration. So please do not get into that situation. Also, I would stress, do not leave registration till the very last minute, because sometimes if you hit a problem, sorting that problem out can take you over the deadline. So please do this well in advance. We will be talking about key dates in a later slide. Another common question I'm asked, who runs the test? Surely, is it not the university? Well, no, the trouble is now this has become such a large scale operation that we need to entrust this to outside bodies. And we use two at the moment. We have the rather confusingly called CAT, Cambridge Admissions Assessment Testing. And also we have Pearson's who run the LNAT for the test that you would need if you are thinking of applying for law. Please note that all registrations go through CAT or Pearson's, and these are the bodies that will liaise with the schools in order to arrange for papers to be sent, or if you are outside the school situation, a test centre. All of these bodies have very, very useful helplines should you need them. So let's just take a look at CAT, because that is the body that will deal with most of the tests. And here we have the CAT website. So what we would do is we'd have a look at information for test takers, and you can see there's a wide range here. And there's also some help for schools and institutions. Okay, so our admissions tests, we will click here. What we are interested in is this little purple box here. And this will tell us all about the various tests that they offer. So let's have a look at the history admissions test. And here we have a very useful page of information. All you need to know, registration, preparation, dates, etc. And this is the same for nearly all of the CAT administered tests. Okay, so as I promised earlier, key dates. Now, these are very important. Please make sure that these are burned in the brain, because you will need to refer to these dates throughout your application process. Okay, so you're probably all aware of the UCAS deadline. That's 6 p.m. UK time, 15th of October. If your subject does require a test, you will need a test candidate entry number by this date. So please be sure that you have that. The CAT administered tests are going to be sat this year on the 3rd of November. Should there be any change to that, the websites will be updated in accordance. If you are taking the BMAT for medicine or LNAT for law, please note some slight variations to standard procedure. Let's look at the BMAT. Please make sure you are registered by the 1st of October, and do note that Oxford only accepts the results for the BMAT test taken in the November sitting. That will all be made clear. You can register late for BMAT, but please don't, because it will be very, very expensive. Okay. LNAT, please note there's different procedures here. The LNAT test is taken in a number of rolling sittings. So please make sure that you are registered by the 15th of September. That's a whole month before the UCAS deadline, and that you must have taken the LNAT before the 15th. If you look on the Pearson's website, they will take you through how these various rolling sittings work. But these are very, very key dates. So make sure that they are on your calendar, in your phone, or on your computer, or however you record your dates. Please note that these are the dates for 2021. They do shift by a day or two as the years progress. So please make sure for each cycle that you do make sure you check the dates and that you make a note. We're all registered. So what happens now? Okay. Some important key steps here. Make sure that your teachers are aware you are doing this. Your teacher is a very, very important person in the process. They will help you prepare and they will make the arrangements for you to take the test. So please speak to them as soon as you decide to make your application. As I said before, mark up your date on the calendar and then try to work out a program for preparation. But what is the best way of doing this? Okay. Don't worry, help is at hand. Ask yourself these key questions. What is my test looking for? What sort of questions can I expect? Is there a multiple choice element or an essay element, or is it a combination of both? And please do be aware that test content and styles vary. So, familiarization is the key. Here are some areas where you can do some useful research. Content. What's the test going to ask? What are the questions types? And what are the areas covered? Level. Most tests will try to push you ever so slightly beyond your comfort zones. So ask yourself, are there any areas where you feel you can shine? Or are there any that need polish? Format. How is the test actually going to look? Familiarity with this will be a great confidence boost. If the test looks how you expect it to look, it will be much easier to tackle. And questions. How many are there? How are they worded? And what form are they taking? LNAT and TSA questions are of a certain type. Sometimes they can be a bit like crossword puzzles or brain teasers. When you get experience with practice questions, you will begin to recognize how the question setters' minds are working. For example, a while back, I took a familiarization LNAT test, multiple choice questions out of 30. I scored about 3 or 4, and I was suitably depressed that I had not scored a higher score on this test. After I had a go at about 3 or 4 more familiarization questions, I was managing to score much higher, say sort of 15 or 16 out of 30. Obviously, I'm never going to go on and apply to be a lawyer, but it was just that simple act of getting familiar and getting into the question setter's mind that helped me get a better score. So that is something you can take further. So what's the best way of getting familiar with these tests? The key is past papers, and these are readily available. So what you need to do is take a look at the test papers for the last 2 or 3 years. No need to go sort of delving back into ancient history. Just see what the trends are over the last 2 or 3 years. Take a careful look at the type of questions and make sure that you discuss these with your teachers. Work through a few examples together. Then have a think, do these papers highlight any areas you feel you need to strengthen or brush up? For example, language tests will look at your grammar and vocabulary use, so this might be an area that you want to strengthen. So how do we get hold of these past papers? Well, there are 3 main ways that I would recommend. Look at your departmental or faculty website. You can find your department or faculty via the subject links that we explored earlier. And also, Catt and Pearson's have stocks of past papers that are freely available for you to have a look at. So, what do these papers look like? Let's use maths as an example. Here we have the maths submissions test page. Lots of useful information along the top, similar to what I touched upon earlier with the subject information pages. So, what we're interested in here is the How Do I Prepare tab. So let's click on that and take a look. Here you will have lots of useful information about how to prepare that has been prepared by the Maths Institute. And here we will have past and specimen papers, the MAT syllabus, which you will find very helpful. So let's take a look there. And here are some links here to the updated syllabus. So click on there for further details. If you are interested in past and specimen papers, you will see a whole array for you to take a look at. Let's look at the most recent one, the 2020 paper. So you will see how it's set out, the format where you enter your personal details, and then you can scroll down and take a look at all the questions. Lots for you to try, lots for you to experiment with. Have a go. So what do we do? As I said in the previous slide, have a go. Make sure you get plenty of practice. Make your first attempt leisurely. Then I think it'd be a good idea to move on to some timed practice. Your teacher can help you with this, or you can do this at home. It's also important that if you feel that there's any issues arising out of your practices that you're concerned about, that you discuss these with your teachers. All this sort of thing will go together to build your confidence. Obviously, don't overdo it. Please try and integrate this into a coordinated plan of revision and preparation. Okay, is there more help out there? Yes, there certainly is. There's the university website. There's the Applying to Oxford guide that we touched on earlier. And as I also mentioned earlier, Cat and Pearson's both have their how to prepare pages. Another thing you might like to think about is how can I perhaps coordinate my normal school studies with my test preparation. You can think about if, for example, as I mentioned earlier, you're preparing for a language test, you could brush up on your grammar. Also useful to think about is how is my wider reading going? And also for maths, please be aware that you need to keep in mind your basic GCSE building blocks of skills, which will help you go forward for further preparation. Also useful, I have been told, are guides like the For Dummies series or associated guides. You can find these on Amazon, so just put that in and it will take you to a whole array of choice of preparation materials. You can get some very, very good deals if you click on the second-hand options. Problems. We all hit problems from time to time, but the key is knowing what to do when they come your way. The main problems that are likely to affect anyone who is going for one of these tests would be, say, an illness or a circumstance that's likely to affect your performance. Problems finding a test centre, not usually an issue for someone in a UK school, but it might be an issue particularly if you've left school or are not in a current school situation, or some difficulties with registration. If you encounter problems with any of the following, please let me know, but you must, and this is very important, inform the test body. So that would be either Cat or Pearson's. If you are unfortunate enough to be affected by illness, it's very, very helpful if you let us have a doctor's note, and also Cat or Pearson's would want to see that. Problems finding testing centres, these can be dealt with by the test bodies, and they have experienced people who will be able to help you with this. Also, registration difficulties. 999 problems with registrations out of 1,000 can be dealt with, but if they are done so in the time available, please do not leave registration to the last minute. It is very, very important. Well, I hope this has covered the basics. I know that tests can be a stressy element of someone's application, but if you do have any questions or would like to take any of the points raised further, please do not be shy about getting in touch. In normal times, I'm equally happy with phone calls or email, but for now, you're much more likely to get hold of me via my email. Also, if any of your teachers would like a word, I'm equally happy to chat with them as well. Thanks.